Dear listeners, we are back once again with a story written by Ronald Burns. If you enjoyed Ronald's story, be sure to explore more of his works on Amazon. We've included links to his stories in the description box below so you can easily dive into his captivating storytelling. Also, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell notification icon. Now let's get on with the story. An elderly couple walked up to my wife of 1 year, Nicole, and me as we played with my golden retriever, Zuma, in park with the bright sunlight filtering through tree branches. Is she a rescue? They asked. Yes, I replied, pointing to my wife, and so is my dog. They laughed and kept walking. Nicole kissed me. 2 years before, Roxanne, my then girlfriend, and I were at a bar when the lead singer asked for requests, and Roxanne requested Roxanne by Sting. He began flirting with her as he sang. A few weeks later, she ran off with him. He was a mediocre singer in a run-of-the-mill bar band. I guess she was victim of low expectations, or maybe I was. I was wallowing in the depths of loneliness and despair. I had been totally blindsided by her cheating. I vowed never again to be so oblivious to a looming disaster. In the depths of my loneliness, I rescued Zuma from a shelter about 20 miles from where I lived. She was about 2 months old. I took her to a park to play with her. A couple walked by, and Zuma moved her nose to sniff the guy's shoe. He was a big guy with a tattoo sleeve depicting violent scenes on his right arm, and viciously kicked her away. His pretty blonde girlfriend, who looked like Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac's twin sister, told him that was cruel. He slapped her across her face. If you ever criticize me again, bitch, I'll beat the shit out of you. He scowled at her as she cried and unsuccessfully tried to pull away from him, but he jerked her back and hit her again. I've always been in love with Stevie Nicks, and this was the closest I'd ever come to meeting her, or at least her doppelganger, and I hope to be this woman's hero. I went to South Philadelphia High School, where I was in fist fights at least weekly. I don't take shit from anyone, but I don't get into a fight unless I know I can win. I didn't hesitate or stop to think. I knew that if I hit him in his face or stomach, he would beat the crap out of me. So I kicked him in his crotch, and he went down howling. As he lay on the ground, I kicked him hard in his ribs, and then I stomped on both of his hands until I heard a satisfying crunch. With those broken fingers, he wouldn't be hitting any more women for quite a while. Don't ever kick a dog or hit a woman. I yelled at him. I felt like the hero in the John Wick movie when someone killed his dog. His girlfriend spit on him, took my hand, and said, "Let's get out of here," she yelled as he lay moaning on the wet grass. Even Zuma got her revenge when she pissed on him. We raced to my car. "I'm Carl," I said as we ran. "I'm Nicole," she responded. In the car, Nicole explained that the guy I kicked was Rufus. "Rufus the doofus," I responded. He was the latest in a series of bad boys that she had dated. "You're pretty tough, but I don't think you're some psycho like my last 3 boyfriends." She claimed she was no longer interested in dating psycho felons. When you rescued me, I finally realized that the reason I always end up with losers isn't my bad luck, it's my bad choices. When I explained that I taught school during the week and worked at a computer store during the weekend, she leaned over and kissed me. "Finally, I found a decent guy to like," she said with a smile. "I have a confession to make. When we returned to my apartment, I put Stevie Nicks on the stereo and played Leather and Lace. Nicole sang along with the CD, Lovers Forever. I was more than hooked. You can think of every cliche you've ever heard about a man instantly loving a woman, but none of those songs could do justice to the way I felt about Nicole. "I'm told I have a resemblance to Stevie Nicks," Nicole said coquettishly, and squished her nose, which was as perfect as Stevie's. "That was 5 years ago. We married a year later. At the time, she was a cocktail waitress, and I was a high school science teacher. I'm not going to say that every cocktail waitress is a 304, but let's just say that it's not a profession known for marital fidelity. But Nicole was beautiful and I was lonely, which was why I rescued that adorable golden retriever puppy Zuma, and also Nicole. I always had this hidden fear that Nicole would revert to her old ways and leave me for a bad boy, because bad habits are so hard to break, but I loved her so much that I accepted the risk. I wasn't happy with the nighttime hours that a cocktail waitress had to work, so I paid for Nicole to go to school to become a beautician. I'm not completely naive and like that idea that she wouldn't be around horny drunken men all night looking for a hookup, but instead work during the day and with women. I have too many flaws and weakness to mention, while Nicole has only 2. She is a prissy neat freak who has to immediately use a bathroom to clean herself after intimacy. No afterglow cuddling for us, and with an insanely sensitive sense of smell and accompanying gag reflex. Just the idea of picking up Zuma's poop is enough to send her vomiting to a bathroom toilet. One day she confessed that as a child her toilet seat broke and she fell into a toilet filled with her diarrhea, and frankly, she'd never recovered. In fact, she still occasionally had nightmares about it. I took care of any occurrence that might smell badly because of Nicole's sensitive, almost ridiculous gag reflex. Last week, she opened a Tupperware container of tuna salad that went bad, and she had to run to the nearest toilet to vomit. Life was good, if not exciting. Every Saturday night we went dancing. Or at least Nicole was dancing. I'm no John Travolta. I was just trying to shuffle along occasionally in time with the music, but she didn't seem to mind. At least once a week we took my widowed Aunt Polly, who had been a pediatric nurse, out to dinner or a movie or a museum. Polly was only 10 years older than I was. Years earlier her husband was killed in Iraq. Now she was dying of cancer. Nicole wasn't excited about being with Polly at first, but she quickly formed a bond with Aunt Polly and they became besties. They lunched together at least once a week. Polly was a sweetheart who took care of me as a child after school until my parents came home. She taught me to ride a two-wheeler and even how to ski. One freezing January Saturday, she finally convinced us to take her to a local ski resort for one last 100-yard run down a bunny slope despite how frail she was. Nicole and I skied on either side of her to make sure she didn't fall, while we slowly coasted down the hill with the fresh scent of pine trees permeating the air. A month later we sat next to her in a hospital room reeking of Pin-Sol disinfectant as she thanked us for the 10 minutes of skiing, which was the most fun she'd had since she was diagnosed with cancer. Then she closed her eyes and soon afterwards died. Her funeral was an assemblage of doctors, nurses, and parents of her former deceased patients. They all spoke of what an angel she had been to dying children in the pediatric cancer ward. I was of course saddened, but Nicole was devastated. She confessed to me that she hadn't had female friends since high school, because they always accused her of trying to steal their boyfriends, or they tried to steal hers. Polly was the first woman she trusted since her mother died when Nicole was a teenager, and now she lost not only her best friend, but a mother figure. Nicole changed. I think she became nihilistic. She said that life had no meaning, since no matter if you were bad, good, or an angel like Polly, you still died. So why did good behavior matter, when you could just do whatever you wanted in the hell with consequences? What about hell? I asked. She pulled up a page on the internet that said hell was mistranslated in early versions of the Bible. It didn't refer to an afterlife, but a physical place outside of a city where the bodies of evil people were burned, along with garbage, after they died. It had nothing to do with immortal souls. That was Nicole's ticket to ride, and speaking of Beatles songs, the one I was thinking of was Help. Polly left Nicole her jewelry and left me her house. It was built in the 1940s and nothing had been updated in all those years since Polly's parents bought it. Faded wallpaper covered the walls, and indestructible shag carpeting from the Eisenhower years hid hardwood floors. It was desperately in need of a remodel. Nicole and I moved out of our small, cramped apartment and into Aunt Polly's house. Nicole became difficult to live with. She began calling me a goody two-shoes and a Boy Scout. When I queried her about what was wrong with that, she claimed that we were missing out on all of the fun and excitement life had to offer, but wouldn't tell me exactly what that meant practically speaking. Then she dyed her blonde hair red and bought a new, much more revealing wardrobe at a store that should have been named Bitches Are Us. I was nervous and worried, but didn't know what to do except hope that after she got over Aunt Polly's death, she would return to normal. That didn't happen. Now she had to stay late at the salon 2 or 3 nights a week. Saturday night was reserved for her going out for drinks with the other girls at the salon, not dancing with me. I put a GPS tracker in her car, which was a waste, because when she went out with friends, they never took her car, because she would become too drunk to drive. I thought of hiring a private eye, but I couldn't afford it, and on a deeper level, I wasn't ready to face the truth if she was cheating. She was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. One day she came home with a tattoo on her left arm. It read, "Live for today." I didn't yell or carry on. Inside I thought she should have discussed this with me before permanently altering her body, but that ship had sailed, and I wasn't on board. Peter, who she claimed was the husband of one of Nicole's beauty shop clients, was a contractor, and we interviewed him to redo the kitchen and the bathroom. He roared over to our house on his Harley Softail and walked through the home with us to give us an estimate. He would tear down a wall between the kitchen and the dining room to create an open-concept kitchen. The whole job should take between 4 to 6 weeks. He and Nicole almost seemed to have known each other beforehand. They were so familiar. Nicole is always very friendly, and I didn't think much of it, though I knew I had to keep my eyes open, especially when she kept running her hands through her hair. It was a tell. She did that when she was flirting. He gave us a very reasonable bid on the kitchen and bathroom, and I gave him the go-ahead to begin. I watched as Nicole looked at him as he drove away on his motorcycle. She was totally turned on by him. I decided not to hire him, but Nicole threw a fit, and I relented because I had a plan. I may be a fool for love, but I'm not a complete fool. I hooked up Wi-Fi cameras throughout the house. When I was teaching, I could watch what was going on inside and outside my home. Peter had a travel trailer that he parked in front of our house. He used it as his office, and could sack out for a nap there if he was too tired to ride home right after work. He'd left it there while he worked during the day, and then he rode his motorcycle home at night. I positioned several cameras to observe the trailer. I know that I could have fired Peter or not even hired him, but if Nicole was a cheat, I needed to know, and instead of playing Magnum and following her all over town, I could monitor her actions at home. This could turn into a trap with Peter as the bait, confirming my worst fears or putting my mind at ease if she was faithful. I was playing double or nothing with my marriage. I wasn't placing any bets one way or the other on the eventual outcome. 2 days into the remodel, as I ate a tuna fish sandwich on stale bread in my high school's cafeteria, I tuned on the cameras in my house and discovered Nicole arm in arm with Peter walking into his travel trailer. They stayed there for over an hour. When they left, they were both busy buttoning up their tops and pants. I saw that Peter the cheater had tattooed sleeves on both of his arms. Nicole was doubling down from her old boyfriend Rufus, who had only one sleeve. I sat still for a moment as I tried to get in touch with my feelings. I live in California, and that's what we do here. We get in touch with our feelings with deep cleansing breaths. But I spent my high school years in South Philadelphia, and there we have a different way of dealing with cheating girlfriends and wives, and it isn't pretty. My most prominent feeling ricochets somewhere between rage and grief. I was completely brokenhearted. I lay my head down in my arms on the table and cried for a few minutes. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she do this to us? I was out of my mind with pain. When I lifted my head from the table, I was fixated on getting my revenge on Nicole in a way that would drive her insane, and I'm not speaking figuratively. I truly wanted to drive her out of her mind and make her suffer like she was making me suffer. I gave her everything that I could. I gave her all of my heart and most of my money, and now I saw that it didn't matter to her at all. I wondered if this was her first time cheating on me, but I doubted it. She jumped into bed with Peter much too quickly for this to be the first time she cheated on me. I felt like such a fool. Like the song says, everybody's somebody's fool. My first order of business was to reconnoiter the enemy's stronghold, his travel trailer. At my first opportunity, one asked Peter to give me a tour. I told him I was thinking of buying one. He was happy to show me his traveling castle. I think he also took pride in showing me where he was intimate with my wife, though he didn't know that I knew. I showed special interest in the small bathroom enclosed only by a flimsy faded yellow curtain and had him explain how the toilet and wastewater holding tank worked. He explained that he had a pump truck show up every Friday afternoon to pump out the 50 gallons of poop and urine so it didn't stink up the mobile home, because not only did Peter and my wife use it, but so did his crew. He took me outside to show me the hookup for draining the poop from the holding tank into the pump-out truck. I had intentionally left my keys in the trailer and went back to retrieve them. While I was inside alone, I placed a tiny battery-operated Wi-Fi camera facing the bathroom, hidden by a bunch of blueprints. I took a photo of the drain for the holding tank. I needed to know the exact size of the nozzle. Using cash that would leave no trail back to me, I bought a large cylinder of compressed air with 3,000 pounds per square inch of pressure that would empty the giant cylinder in a few seconds, a 20-foot hose and correct nozzles to connect the cylinder to the holding tank at the appropriate time. I hid the tank and hose in the trunk of my car, a large Chevy Impala about 20 feet away. The same car that Nicole claimed was so boring. On Friday, I ostensibly left the house at my usual hour, claiming I was on a 2-hour bike ride for exercise. It was President's Day, so the school was closed. I used my specialized electric bike that I rode to work several times a week for exercise. I stopped several blocks away and monitored my home on my cell phone. About a half hour after I left, Peter showed up on his motorcycle, and Nicole joined him in the travel van. I returned and waited 20 minutes, until I saw through the hidden camera Nicole enter the small bathroom, since ours was still unusable during the day when the construction crew worked on it. I silently opened the trunk of my car, connecting the high-pressure air cylinder to the pump-out valve on the trailer's toilet. Then I opened both valves all of the way as 3,000 pounds per square inch of compressed air shot through the clean-out valve, hurling 50 gallons of urine and poop back up from the holding tank through the toilet and into the air, covering Nicole with it from head to toe, as well as the rest of the camper. She let out a blood-curdling scream. I disconnected the hose, hid it in the trunk of my car, leaving no evidence of my involvement, and quickly rode away on my bike. 10 minutes later, I received a call from the fire department, who had been called to my house and found that my wife was insanely screaming and vomiting while running around the front yard naked and covered in poop. They informed me that they were taking her to a hospital for a 72-hour psychiatric hold, but only after they hosed her off. I phoned Peter and told him not to be at my house when I came back and never to return. He tried to apologize and explain that it wasn't his fault because Nicole came on to him, but I told him where to stuff it. He demanded money from me to clean up his travel trailer. I didn't answer but hung up. Then I went to our bank and removed all of the money and put it somewhere safe. I changed all of my insurance and 401k accounts, as well as my IRA. I returned home to remove all of the hidden cameras, including the one in the travel trailer, which stunk to high hell. Then after I showered off the stench, I went to see my soon-to-be ex-wife at the hospital more to gloat than to console. Nicole was heavily sedated, so I left and returned later. I sniffed the air and told her that she still stunk, especially her hair. She also sniffed the air and screamed for a nurse to cut off her hair so the stink would go away. She didn't try to apologize. She was still in shock. I thought about serving her with divorce papers right away, but decided to give her a few days to calm down, out of decency and the residual love I still had for her. The police investigated the incident. At first, they thought that an explosive device went off in the toilet, but there was no evidence of an explosion or any other malfunction. When they questioned me, I merely commented that my wife always suffered from excessive gas, and this was just another of her explosive farts. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.